Are you an ADHD parent like me that gets overwhelmed fast by curriculums that are not open and go? The ones with 100 moving pieces and a random creative activity that you weren't prepared for, and then you feel guilty skipping it because you know how important hands-on learning is. Or maybe you did weeks of research, finally picked the perfect history curriculum, and if that pick was BiblioPlan, which is genuinely a great resource, you got it home and realized, this is not open and go. You still have to plan. I'm Mary Ellen, and this year we're doing early modern history, which is 1600s to 1850, and I want to walk you through what our Charlotte Mason homeschool history actually looks like with neurodivergent kids that also have some learning struggles. Because this is not what it looked like when we first got started. The idea of living books spoke to my soul when I was first researching Charlotte Mason. I was so excited to read all day with my kids, and my oldest loved listening to stories, and his favorite device is still a Yo2 player where he listens to audiobooks whenever he can. And this idea of surrounding yourself with interesting living books instead of a dry textbook, which really appealed to all my kids, especially him. And I know this is true about living books because when I think about my own history experience in high school, the time periods that I remember are attached to an interesting book that I read. Where it gets tricky is that in the Charlotte Mason world, usually about 3rd and 4th grade, your kid is usually expected to transition into mostly an independent learner, with obviously some guidance from the teacher, which is supposed to free you up so you can focus on your younger kids and your early learners that are now joining the homeschool party. Well, you know what they say about well-laid plans. Enter dyslexia. My son did not reach that independence by 3rd grade or 4th grade because dyslexia affects how the brain processes written words and sounds. So as he was climbing in grades, so was the amount of reading that I was doing with him. And then I started adding in a second learner. And as much as I love reading with my kids, I was getting tired. It was too much. It was a lot of reading, especially when you're reading it all out loud. So I needed to figure out how to still give them the education that I wanted them to have, how to accommodate my son, and then lessen my load as the teacher. Because one-on-one for every subject was just becoming not sustainable for us anymore. And on top of the reading, just the logistics started getting more complicated with that second learner. And if you've watched any of my videos at all, you know that my brain works in systems, how to make things efficient, and it keeps on tweaking things until I get there. So I'm very excited to share with you what I've built for our Charlotte Mason aligned homeschool history for this year. For my neurodivergent visual learning kiddos with some other learning struggles mixed in there. I've been sharing it with them as I've been developing it, and they're excited about it too. And so in true ADHD fashion, I hyperfixated for a really long time and created these. So I decided to make them shareable. If you're studying 1600 to 1850 time period this year, you can find my main guide and my journaling guide for early modern history on my website in the shop. We use the BiblioPlan history as our spine, so I got the textbook and the audio that goes with it and the map work. We're a busy family and have tons of appointments, so a couple of years ago, I made the realization that I had to be creative with my time. And I decided that I wasn't going to buy any homeschool curriculums that did not have an audio component. So then we can put that car time to good use. And then my visual learners will look through the textbook while it's reading. If your kid is at a reading level to read the textbook, then that is definitely preferred. So then they're hearing it and reading it. But if your kids aren't at that level, looking at the pictures is good too. And the audio just takes some of the pressure off for those kids that get fatigued fast when they're reading. For map work, my 6th and my 3rd grader each do their own. And we usually do that week's lesson together at the table and use the textbook, sometimes our globe, and sometimes my phone. And I like it because it flexes easily for both of them. For my 3rd grader, I just have him do some main bodies of water and main countries, and he labels them. For my 6th grader, I have him basically do the whole sheet every time so that he can apply more of what's going on with history with the prompts that are provided on the map work lesson for that week. But depending on when we're doing it, sometimes my 12-year-old needs some extra support because he has dysgraphia and it's slow. So sometimes we'll take turns depending on how much energy he has for it. Even though we like the BiblioPlan pieces, it's a spine. I realized pretty quickly that just listening to the history text really wasn't going to be enough for my kids to really take in what is going on during this time period that we're studying for the year. And while they love listening to audiobooks, their main learning styles are visual and hands-on. And so I was still having to supplement quite a bit to give them that visual and hands-on learning too, which ate up a lot of my time during the school year, and it was hard to find that time to create those things for them. So knowing that my kids would benefit from hands-on, multisensory, multimodal learning, and being part of the Charlotte Mason world where journaling is emphasized, here's our full plan. Use the 3 BiblioPlan pieces that I already mentioned to stay on track and to make sure that geography is being covered. And then I'm layering in the main guide and the journaling guide that I created to provide that supplementation, but it's also open and go. So I'm not scrambling around during the week. The main guide is basically an interactive checklist. It's built around 5 categories: physical books, audiobooks, journaling, YouTube videos, and Friday movies. And so for physical books, I picked great living books and books that were well illustrated, plus DK informational books, and assigned the books that I found to the weeks that they corresponded with the most. I just looked through, found the books that we already had, and bought some more. In the past, I'd make sure that there was a book for every single week, and honestly, it was too much to maintain. We never got to them all, and I have many other sources of supplementation, so it wasn't necessary to have it every single week. Now, the books that are assigned for that week, I just put them out unschooling style to create curiosity and for the kids to grab during their free time and during their independent reading time. And sometimes we may grab it for a read aloud if we have time to. So for audiobooks, I favorite books from this era on my Hoopla app through my local library and play them in the car when we're done with the history audio for the week. My guide lists the audiobooks in chronological order or to go along with the topic for that week. But I'm not very strict about it. Some weeks we won't be in the car as much, and other weeks we might be in way more, and it all evens out in the end. So for YouTube history videos, I curate about an hour's worth per week. I hyperlink them under each week so that they're easy access to complement the lesson that we're listening to. Plus, I make a master playlist. And then for Friday movies, we started this last year where I picked movies that corresponded to what we're learning about, maybe loosely, maybe like right on target. And that was a fun add-on to the end of the week where we try to slow down and do more hands-on stuff after a busy week. Full disclosure, it doesn't happen every week. Sometimes we might be on a field trip or doing something else that Friday, but if we're home, we try to do the movies. And I already have them hyperlinked under the corresponding week, so it's just a simple click and go. I do have discussion questions under audiobooks and under the movies. And so we're talking about literary elements, what we think about this book, what do we think is going to happen, what's the setting, who's the author, whose perspective are we hearing from, and other literary elements. And so it makes it more engaging and makes it a little less passive. And it also counts for language arts. So this is what I'm planning on for a real week this year. On Mondays, we're likely going to be doing the map work and looking at our journal idea pages because we have a little more time on Mondays. And so this lets us kind of have an idea of what we're going to be learning about this week. And then we get the map work out of the way, which can take some time. And then on Tuesdays, we start having appointments. So we're going to listen to the history audio as we're driving around. And they're going to be looking at the textbook while we're listening to it. Also, when they're done listening to the audio textbook, they could be coloring in a coloring sheet or doing something else in the car as well. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're likely going to be listening to audiobooks in the car unless they're working on some other kind of subject for school that they can do in the car. And so the last element of the Open and Go guide is journal. And I have a complimentary journal guide that gives them the pages each week that they can use to create their journal. Their journaling is going to happen during school time, during their independent time. This is all mapped out for 34 weeks to go along with the BiblioPlan curriculum. But I also added in a bonus reflection week for week 35 so that they have an opportunity to look back at their work and reflect on what was interesting, what they were surprised about, and maybe how far their skills have come within that year. So that's how I built a multi-sensory early modern history experience that has reading, listening, watching, mapping, talking, artwork, and hands-on doing. So if one channel isn't working for that kid that day, they have another to tune into. It's still Charlotte Mason underneath, living books, real engagement with ideas, short lessons. It's very teacher light now that it's open and go, and it flexes across multiple kids to meet them where they actually are. This year, that's a kindergartner, a third grader, and a sixth grader, all learning from the same spine at different depths. So this guide is launching today and will be on sale until Labor Day in honor of back to school season. I want to be upfront, it's not a replacement for BiblioPlan, and it's not affiliated with them. It's a companion that I built because I needed it. But there really is a lot added on top with the supplementation that you could use it alone if that's what you decided to do for your history curriculum. I really hope it brings some much needed peace and excitement to your homeschool. And the thing I love about it the most is it was always geared towards kids that were neurodivergent or struggling learners. A lot of times you're having to adapt curriculums to meet those needs, but these guides were made with them in mind right from the beginning. So coming up this month, I'm going to talk about how we're tackling the journaling part of this curriculum, how language arts gets folded into other subjects, and how I'm organizing our school year this year so that everything doesn't fall apart by October. And I'm Mary Ellen Yates, and this is Growing Together, Neurodiversity at Home.